will be presenting and shedding light on what rehab entails and how an introvert functions and gets the most from rehab by a special tool that most rehabs have to offer, which is peer recovery specialist service, which I want to present to you as a very powerful tool alongside treatment. So just to start, rehabilitation is a place where people can go to get clinical and therapeutic help coming down and abstaining from substance use and abuse. And most often, if not all, treatment will help abstain a person's drug use and offer mental health treatment hand in hand as a part of their program. So rehab is a form of an intermediate sanction that a judge can use to tailor sentencing to a nonviolent drug-related crime. This is in an effort to lessen the amount of people incarcerated and living inside prison. This slide is to share that in substance abuse, a person can get swept off their feet functionally and mentally. It can affect multitudes of people connected to the person abusing drugs. I wanted to share the principle R&R, risk, need, and responsivity. So I wanted to talk about the responsivity principle that is a lens to look at how the intervention, such as treatment, is attained. Who is it? Well, come inside, honey. I'm recording. I said I'm working on my thing. Can you silently come in? What? My pizza. Go get it out of the fridge. Thank you for letting me know. Yes, next time just come inside. Okay. All right, let me start over with my sentence. A child came in looking for her pizza. So the responsivity principle is a principle that looks at how a participant is able to achieve the benefits of a program or intervention. The program I'm going to use an example of is treatment. Going to look at how that person, needs to be measurable. How is that person able to achieve attendance to a program? How they can respond. Do they have everything they need to get to their program? Are they, even if they are they just showing up? Are they doing any contributing to the program? And are they taking anything from the program and making any change at all outside of the program? What is the measurable responsivity? And this is a principle, again, used to look at interventions in an ultimate goal to reduce an offender's criminal behavior. Alongside the be principle are the risk and need principle. So there are all kinds of assessment and um, more thorough way at assessing an intervention to tailor a criminal behavior. So in describing treatment from substance use disorder requires and entails leaving something behind and coming up with something new. And it is often referred to in treatment as finding new people, places, and things to help change a behavior and grow to heal and be more able to resist using substance as a coping skill. The new world we create, or the new behaviors and systems and support we create, requires upkeep. This is a chore for the spirit and for the social muscle, and it is taught in treatment. Some effective methods of that are practiced in inpatient and outpatient treatments are the literature of 12 steps and 12 traditions. This literature talks about the practice of these 12 steps, and these also to practice are very, very taxing on the spirit. It requires giving spiritually and looking at our character defects, which I personally think is very helpful when shedding layers to expose oneself to going without substance use and growing. This is a picture of what a meeting may look like and an effective quote from the literature. Who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant? Who cares about anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer, unless he has to do these things to stay alive themselves? Recovery entails connection alongside this chore of the spirit. It entails group processes, not isolating. It entails active listening, acknowledging ourselves and our character defects and behaviors, talking about them, listening and without judgment and patiently to others. Now I will share slides and a story about Rat Park Experiment. This story was passed on to me through listening to a podcast by a man named Tristan, who was podcasting and presenting Johann Hari. Johann Hari is famous and known for, to me, for his talks of the opposite of addiction is connection. So Johann Hari shared with us about an experimenter, a scientist, who wanted to look at rats and the effects of the rats' ability to drink drug water and regular water. So they looked at a rat alone in a cage, and the rat was able to have drug water, which was either filled or combined with heroin or cocaine, is what Johann Hari said. And then there was a tub of regular water right next to it. The rat, after experiencing water from both tubes or water bottles, displayed that it wanted it or chose the drug water. And also, it was noted that the rat would compulsively drink the drug water instead of the regular water, and the rat would overdose and die. Then the experimenter wanted to do an experiment with rats who were in a cage with other aspects that come with life other than when not in isolation. And he specifically put in other rats to have sex with, other rats to socialize with, wheels for rats to exercise, and perhaps some other forms of um, physical physical activity, such as different layers to the cage, but it was called Rat Park. So instead of just one rat drinking either water or drug water and having the choice, he observed uh, a more socially forward rat park cage and then observed the behavior of rats who had access to drug water and access to healthy water. Again, it was infused with heroin or cocaine. So, what the experimenter observed is that when the rats were in the rat park cage, they did choose drug water, but they also chose it less compulsively. And I believe that Johann Hari said that the experimenter reported the turnover of overdose was almost 100%. So, being that there was the ability for the rat park to walk over to connection, sex, or exercise, or perhaps get space from all the other rats, there were those options instead of just compulsively going to get a fix from drug water. There were other options in the rat environment. And I want to note that alongside connection, my observation of this experiment is the ability to walk away and take a break inside a socially vibrant place is um is a very healthy option to have in a connection. So it's not disconnecting, but it's space and understanding to take a break. So Johann Hari also talks about, again, he referred to another psychologist, scientist, but he talked about psychological oxygen in our environment. So the psychological oxygen is the amount of oxygen a available in our environment to serve our needs. So if you're an extrovert, I'm going to use as an example, you're not isolated in your environment. You have a bike, a car, roller skates, Uber, or friend to get from point A to point B so that you can go places and meet people. And if you were an introvert, you may have space to get disconnection and thinking time, but you're not alone from others and totally cut off, but you get understanding and space to have thought process. So our ability to get our needs met is the amount of psychological oxygen in our environment. So again, that is a balance. And I use the example of yin and yang. So we can't have too much yin not too much yang. It has to cycle through and balance. And balance is another thing that is talked about in treatment. And we will be talking about balance further in this presentation. So speaking of balance, an introvert may need recovery. The way recovery works, that connection, active listening, those group processes, but find that they also need their personal space. There has to be a meeting. There's got to be a meeting of the two because they need to balance. I am really freaking out and suffocating to be able to stay home tonight. I can't make it to every group. I went to treatment today. I went to a FAR group with mommies, and I did a CPS meeting. I really need to go home tonight. There needs to be a bridge. But group is talking about my amount of group or activities that I'm doing in sober events. I'm turning them down. I don't go to as many meetings as the rest of my peers in outpatient treatment. I need to do something fun with my children. I need to participate in their doctor appointments as well. I may be stepping away from sober events, and I may not get to more than one meeting a week alongside my outpatient group. I need some understanding that I am not lessening or disconnecting. This is where a peer recovery specialist has been very helpful for me. This is the bridge between myself and my program alongside being present at group meetings and CPS meetings or legal meetings and sober events. Again, we talk about this in group. What are you going to do for your recovery this weekend? What are you going to do if it ends up you don't go to a meeting and but you're doing work, a legal meeting, and you're doing some service work with your peer recovery specialist or with other people in our program or people we know are sober? Sometimes recovery looks like this. There are bills to pay, down payments for a home. In my case, I was not even legal to drive while I was getting sober. Yes, I was abstaining from drugs, but there was a lot for me to get back into place other than abstaining from drugs. Rent needed to be paid, and a month goes by fast, and I'm taking 3 outpatient classes, so it can be really physically taxing. I'm fighting with some family members who I lost trust from in the time that I was using, and I'm alone for nights with the children. Though there are sober events and parties going on, recovery does look like this. Things don't get easy and stay easy, which is okay. Now I'm going to talk about what an introvert is, just in the slightest and most general. So introverts are those who require space to cognitively process, even if it is from your supervisor at work, in treatment, from your cell phone, or from your small child. An introvert that I'm talking about is actual alone time. Alone time. Nobody talking to you, no stimuli beckoning you. You are using your own senses and mind, body, and soul, and you are functioning, but it's disconnection. So, Eamon Ryan is a man who presented a TED Talk. I will be referring to him just slightly. But Eamon Ryan says that an introvert enjoys being with their thoughts more than other people. Introverts are in tune with their emotions or strive to be while they are alone. They are smart and reflect on their social interactions. Are interested in detailed oriented subject matter, how things make them feel, what else is going on within the context of the subject matter. It's good to have space to think things through. This is a picture of a balance wheel. Some of us have seen it in treatment or in a skills class. A balance wheel is a mark of different aspects in our life, such as school, food, shelter. You can make up your own aspects, but there are basic needs such as physical, spiritual, occupational, emotional, environmental, financial, and again, social. And then we rate the length from the center of how much work is getting applied to each aspect in our life. And once we fill in the mark that we make, we take a look at the shape of our wheel. And then we think philosophically about how a wheel flows. If it's not a perfect circle, it may be kind of wobbly, but this is natural. And it's just healthy to look at our balance, not to have a perfect balance, but to evaluate our balance. And this is just like a, a fun physical tool to look at that. It's helpful to look at it. And it's helpful if you're working with a peer or a treatment or some kind of teacher, counselor, to remind you that this is to look at, that it's not going to be perfect, but to keep looking at it. Evaluate your balance. No judgment, but evaluation. Be mindful of. So I want to point out that is isolation and introvert are very different. It may have been a person is isolating in their drug use, and then they come out and work a program. They come out of a dark time and they step into clinical setting and group setting, and then they learn that they may find that a person who is an introvert may find that they still need breathe space. They need psychological oxygen for their introvert function to think things through. But they might find that without using drug use, and if they are praying and meditating and going to group or doing service work and being alone, it's not unhealthy. It's not isolating, it's introversion. So there's a fine line between isolation and introversion. Isolation is cutting yourself off from help, cutting yourself off from other functions and supports. Stimulation. There is a difference that has been talked about. Um, this person who I'm referring to their essay, Isabel Klug from Antioch University, she wrote about the difference of how extroverts and introverts are stimulated. They process stimulation differently. An introvert's energy can be depleted in certain environments or depleted without the chance to debrief, be by oneself. So now that we've talked about introverts, and hopefully I've been able to shed light on what it entails to be in rehab and what it entails if you are an introvert. This man, Peter, is a peer recovery specialist in the flesh who I have interviewed from an institution that I have graduated treatment from and had my own peer recovery specialist. But Peter had the time to answer my questions, and I have picked some clips from his interview that highlight what I feel like is important that peer recovery specialists do. And alongside a lawyer, I think that a peer recovery specialist is super amazing. Um, they're a peer in your recovery. They are provided by your institution. They're there to help you do the work of what you are able to do. They're not there to give up on you. So let me play a clip from our interview that talks about peers showing up to meetings for us and representing us to people in the legal sleeve, such as probation officers or judges or CPS workers. So this is from Peter. So I hope this was loud enough to hear, but Peter is talking about going to a CPS meeting via Zoom with a participant. I'm going to play another clip. Peter is a very good talker. We had a long interview. I have all kinds of questions. Okay. Um, what is an ROI? I've worked before, but I can't put what's like ROI. So Peter shares with us about an ROI, which I picked it because this is an amazing thing for me. I compare my peer recovery specialist interaction with that of a lawyer. Because when I was in recovery, my support and family and the law did not quite trust me. But I signed a consent form to a peer recovery specialist to talk about my recovery at that institution with folks who were representing my CPS case and my family who wasn't calling me at the time and was kind of like done with me because of my behaviors during drug abuse. So I signed an official ROI, which I think is very powerful to have on file. And um, I was willing to do what they diagnosed me to do, such as intensive outpatient treatment. I was willing to show up on time and to go to each group and process through all my moods. I was willing to do that, and I knew in my heart that this was a powerful tool because a peer recovery specialist was willing to come with me and by fact report that I was going to outpatient treatment and that anything else I could do, such as I was an introvert, but I joined a small female Alcoholic Anonymous group that met at the Pioneer Club. And it was a small group and it was just women. So I didn't have to worry about um, looking good for the boys and getting my number asked for. What? I'm recording. Okay, so what are you going to do? Okay, so go sit down. You can go sit down downstairs. What? Yeah? Okay. Hey, go. Yeah. Okay, that's funny, but I'm recording. You gotta go downstairs. Here, do you want a shirt?
Cool down there.
Yeah. We'll close the window if it's cold. Here. Okay. We'll put your water in the fridge and your whatever else you're not eating, clean up. All right. Thank you. So in this meeting, one of the ladies asked me to hand out flyers, and I knew people from outpatient group and from hanging out at Recovery is Happening and from going to sober events that what? I'm recording. No? Get fucking going. Okay, I said I was recording. I know you have questions, but I said you can stay right there. Go. Go. So I was able to hand out flyers as service work to other women because we wanted the group to grow in size. That was something I was comfortable doing. And I did hand out flyers and I also asked some other girls if they wanted to do some service work, please share with people I'm not able to connect with, women. Another form of connection with my peer recovery specialist is when I was coming down off of drugs and beginning my journey at the institution, recovery is happening. My peer recovery specialist asked me a series of questions, and one of them was, do you have a place to live? And I said, yes, I have an apartment. I was very lucky that I didn't lose that, but I was all alone and I didn't have family or anybody or friends because they were using and they weren't really my friends. But so I was told by my peer recovery specialist that I can always come there. I'll never forget that. So even when I wasn't in group or meeting with my peer recovery specialist, I was welcome to go into Recovery is Happening and sit in a conference room if it wasn't in use, go to the gym, smoke a cigarette outside on the picnic table, go sit in the common room, bring food, go make food, help make coffee. And that is a safe place that I went. And it is also a safe place where I was able to have um supervised visits with my infant and two young kids. And I also want to share that um I was not homeless at the time, but I had supervision from my peer recovery specialist or another peer recovery specialist who had the time space to be willing and say they were supervising me and supervise me. I had that connection, and that was a tool for me because there were times when I had to work up to getting my trust back from the state and other family members, which is never easy. And even when you do earn your trust back from some people, there are some bitter hearts that want to fight you back down to the lesser plateau. It's not easy for anybody to pick up pieces after drug abuse and the afflictions of it, but it can happen. And the the peer recovery specialist method was very helpful for me. I'm going to give one more reason before I go to the next slide why my peer recovery specialist was helpful for me. Is she told me that I could call her anytime. And she's not a sponsor. And they don't take abuse and they are not therapists. But even if it was for a brief few minutes and it wasn't her expertise, that woman took my calls when I would get COVID and I couldn't go to group, or um, I have to drop the kids off on time, or I'm gonna break the agreement, but dad isn't picking the kid up. He has to work late. I can't keep the children later. What on earth do I do? Or, you know, the fact that she was my peer, my she was a professional at being my peer and letting me ask. We worked through it together. And I made my own decisions, but I really couldn't go it alone. Having a peer is an amazing function for an institution to offer for people going into uh drug abuse rehab, people working with probation and people working with the law. It's an amazing thing to have a peer recovery specialist. It's an amazing thing to take someone's call. So, about life, about relationships with the law and oneself. It's more than a sponsor. And so I really appreciate that. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So I'm thankful for a peer recovery specialist, and I will share that I did service work, such as when my peer recovery specialist had people to give rides home or to meetings. If it was a woman, I offered with my time while I was sitting at the institution, so I wasn't alone. I offered to my specialist, I will go out to north side of town. I can go out to West Concord. I'll give him a ride. No gas money, call it service work. If I can, I will. I would like to. I can. And it helped keep me sober. It didn't infringe on my ability to have space, and it was helping others. And I was getting a lot of help from my rehab. So you bet, I wanted to do what I could. Another thing I did as service work, um, you may not think of it, but I'd go to Silver Lake Foods and I'd get some cold salads and in tubs, and I'd bring them and share with whoever was there working, and other addicts in recovery who were there. Come eat. I've gotten bratwurst and hummus and chips, and if I'm going to be there, I'll share what food I have. And I was able to do that. And these things are ways that I connected with a peer recovery specialist. I didn't have to go to huge meetings. I didn't have to go to every kayaking trip, even though it was fun, because I needed time to process the other things I was doing to stay afloat. And I will tell you that when I was alone, I did pray and sage. And I did like to go to the long meetings where you can sage and have a meeting with Wellbriety. And I liked those, but some days after treatment, I had to go home. I couldn't stay at Recovery is Happening and mingle anymore. I had to go home because of my personality type. I needed the quiet and I needed to be alone. And I would shower and light candles. And these are just forms of a person being alone, little pictures. But I did sage at home. Sometimes I would pray that the world forgive me that I'm saying no, or I'm changing plans, or I'm backing out. Sometimes it bothered people that I would say, no, I'm not going to make it. And I would feel and question my recovery. Now that I have 4 years on my belt for sobriety, I evaluate the way my introverted personality functioned, and that is why I chose this topic to share. Hopefully, it is helpful for people who are introverted. But as long as you're doing the work and you're not isolating, look at how much you've grown. Was the introversion helpful? These are some of the things that I've done in my own time. And yes, they were helpful because I had support from someone with firsthand experience. Another mother, another woman, another addict, someone who had been to meetings before. And when I got upset in a group meeting, my face showing other CPS workers and disgruntled grandmothers of my children, she would touch me on my leg under the table. And she would remind me outside meetings, I know it's not fair. Just don't show it. Fix your face. I know it's not right. That's the kind of help I needed. And she was right. We had a symbiotic relationship. I needed her, and me, her position required hours and helping people. The fact that she had people who needed rides home, or that she was doing paperwork at the building and she needed to be there, awesome. I needed her too, so I could do a supervised visit at a place because I couldn't do it at my home. Our relationship was symbiotic. Like she doesn't know how important she was, you know, because I needed to be with somebody sober. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't mingle. Like some extroverts can go do that. They can sync up with Ryan or Jake, bring the baby along, and go barefoot. It's cool, but I had so many like inhibitions. Like I didn't function like that. I needed my peer recovery specialist, and I needed interaction with who was there also. Not to say that I didn't go barefoot places with my kids, but it was very little. My tolerance was little, and that is okay. Here's a list in alphabetical order, in APA style, of the um, essays I read, interview I did, books I pulled from, and videos I've listened to and watched. Thank you for listening to my presentation.